So y'all, hope y'all having a great day. Hope y'all having a great day. Perfect weather out here. Perfect weather out here. Uh, if you have a chance to walk, go outside, take advantage of this beautiful weather. Beautiful weather. Another day. Blessed to see another day that the Creator have given us. Uh, just a lot of things I'm thinking about in my head, for this channel to talk about. A lot on my mind about, just living. You know, I'm the type of person, I can be somewhat of a perfectionist. I feel like I have to do everything right. you know, Sometimes that's a gift and sometimes that's a curse. Well, I wouldn't say a curse. I would say it's pros and cons to being that type of person where you feel like you have to be perfect. You have to do everything right. There's pros and cons to it. Sometimes it causes you to not progress sometimes because you feel like you're always corrected in a way or corrected in a sense. So, it's a lot of things to that. A lot of things to that. Uh, but we all make mistakes in life. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we feel like, uh, we feel like a failure when we do things wrong. You know, we feel like a failure. But you gotta just pick it up and keep going. Pick it up and keep going. Sorry, I was kind of interrupted by the dog back there. But my mind was all over the place. but yeah, you just gotta keep going as far as life is concerned. Stop making excuses for your failures. Because you're gonna stumble sometimes. You ain't gonna get every step in life correct. Sometimes you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna stumble. You're gonna fall. That's all a part of learning. Part of knowledge. Gaining knowledge is you're gonna fail sometimes. It's not always gonna be peaches and cream. Through life. Sometimes you gotta learn from mistakes. You gotta learn from your mistakes and keep going. A lot of people, they feel like it's over when they make one mistake. But when you make that mistake, learn from that mistake and keep pushing. It's always something around the corner. How you doing, Miss Hot Mommy? Mommy, yeah. But yeah, stop making an excuse for your failures. Just keep going. A lot of people stop because they stumble one. They start a business and something happens, and I was thinking of the owner of Slutty Vegan. If y'all heard of that restaurant, she just did a few interviews about her franchise, how she had lost her business because of mistakes she did in her business, and she lost her business ownership to her business, and now she's regained it back. And I believe now you know, she knows the mistakes that she made last time. So this time, it can be a better business. It can launch. It can go forth. And so, don't make it. Don't make excuses for your mistakes. Just keep going. Acknowledge the mistake. Examine and analyze what mistakes you made and move forward. It's a lot of mistakes I've made on jobs. you know, the reason I got laid off and stuff from jobs, I made mistakes. I wasn't on time a lot at work. I lost that zeal to really be at that job for a lot of many reasons. Not all my fault completely, but I should have just kept going. Being on time at work, but I believe that was a blessing in disguise for me to focus on the things I really needed to focus on in life. But still, it's no excuse of why I got laid off from the job last year. But I learned from that mistake. So when I get to my next job, you know, I know what to do next time. I know what to do. The mistakes I made, and I keep going. You know, and I'm the type of person. I'm very transparent, and so I don't make all the right turns in life. I admit that. I don't make all the right choices in life. Neither do you. Nobody's perfect, and so like I said, learn from your mistakes. Don't make excuses for your mistakes, because the more you do that, the more you're not gonna progress. The more your personality, your attributes, your character will reflect your opportunities. People people don't want to associate with people that always make excuses. They always want to look at they want to be looked as always being right. You know, I hate people like that. They feel like they're always right when they're wrong completely, and try to fix it up. Try to fix it up to make it seem like they're right. And so, uh, you know, it's a lot of people like that in this world. They hate to admit when they're wrong, and that's the type of people I don't really like to associate with, because we are never going to grow if we always making excuses for our mistakes, and we try to make it seem like it was right. you know it's a lot of choices I made in the past where now I could have been further, but now I feel like I'm further in life, mentally. And so you just got to examine these things. You got to examine these things and move forward in life. See what life will take you, because life is definitely a journey. Life is definitely a journey that we all have to figure out. Life is like a puzzle. You got to figure out your purpose. You got to figure out where you fit at in this picture, of life. Where do I fit? Where do I contribute to the full picture? You may be here to help somebody else's life. Your purpose might be, that you're here to help somebody else get to where they at. I think of like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson he wouldn't be who he is if it wasn't because of people like James Brown, Jackie Wilson, all these people who inspired him to be who he is. He wouldn't be Michael Jackson without all these people that inspired him. And so everybody's on this planet for a reason. Of course, Michael Jackson, he probably made some mistakes in life, and he learned from it. That's why, he became one of the greatest entertainers of all time, because he knew the mistakes he was making and he corrected it. And, in a way he became a threat, because he knew so much. He knew so much knowledge of the music business, because when he was younger, he felt like they was taken advantage of, by Berry Gordy, by, their father, taken advantage of from a lot of people, and he figured out he didn't want to make the mistake to be in another contract where he's controlled, and he owned half of Sony ATV. And so I just want to say that story because a lot of people just make excuses for mistakes, and they stay in those mistakes, they stay in those actions, and they never progress in life. And so again, appreciate y'all for watching. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Please subscribe to my channel, Open Minded Conversation. Till next time, peace.